Okay, Bezos Hashem. Hi, Sheldon.
Hi.
Okay, today's daf is daf Ayin Aleph, and we have a very short daf. It's pretty one topic. So let's go into the Mishnah. Okay, so we know, just as a background, when a girl who's 12 years old gets engaged, so when she makes a neder, so there are two partners to revoke or confirm the neder. One is her father, and two is her husband. Okay, and that's from 12 till she's 12 and a half. Those are the two partners to confirm or revoke her neder. And one other point is that very important. You only have one day to think about. You have just that day that you heard about the neder. You have that day to think about whether you want to confirm or whether you want to revoke the neder. You don't have my father used to take, to live and be well, used to take 3 days till he signed the report card. Doesn't work that way. When a woman makes a neder, her father who hears it or her husband who hears it has basically that day to confirm or revoke the neder. If they don't say anything, it's automatically confirmed. The default is that it is confirmed. Okay, so let's read the Mishnah. So the Mishnah tells us a very interesting thing. Nadra vihi arusa. A girl made a neder. She's engaged, and she is an arusa. Arusa means she's engaged to somebody. So now there are two partners to confirm or revoke her neder. And her husband heard about the neder, but didn't decide what he wants to do. But then, nisgar shabai bayayim. Then he gave her a divorce that day. So he's out of the picture because he's not married to her anymore. And then a funny thing happened. The day of the neder, she got a divorce. She made a neder. She got divorced from her first husband. She got engaged to husband number two. And the Mishnah says, even if this happened 100 times. Hi, Louis, we just began. The Mishnah just gave us a case. A woman who made a neder when she's an arusa. Okay, so her and her husband have to decide if they want to keep the father and the husband are the ones that can decide if they can revoke the neder or keep it. Break the neder. So what happened was she got divorced that day from her husband. And then she got engaged to husband number two on that day. Now, that's not really, you're not supposed to do that. You know that. You can't get divorced and engaged that same day. We know we have to wait 3 months. But this is all theoretical if it happened. Right, you have to wait 3 months before you can get married. So, but this is what happened. She got engaged that day to husband number two. Even if she got divorced from husband number two and got engaged to husband number three, even if it happened 100 times in that day. So what happens? The neder that she first made at the beginning of the day when she had husband number one. So now, that's beautiful. That her father and the last husband can revoke the neder that she made with the first husband, because the last husband takes the place of the first husband. And so the power now is in the father and the husband, the last husband. Zeh haklal, the Mishnah gives you a rule. If she did not go into her own domain at 1 hour. In other words, if this girl, between all the husbands, let's say, never got married, she didn't go to the chuppah, because when a girl goes to the chuppah, goodbye, she's no more, the father's power is off. So as long as she was not married, that's another way of saying, as long as she did not go to the chuppah with any one of these husbands, they only just gave her an engagement. So then, the father and the last husband could be made for the nedarim. Another point is an important point. If she turned 12 and a half, right? So now she becomes a mature adult. Her father is out of the picture. Once she becomes a bogeres, her father is out of the picture. And therefore, what's left? The left is the husband, but the husband can never, as long as he didn't go to the chuppah with her, if he's just engaged, he can't revoke her neder by himself. So that's
married.
Yes, totally get married. He needs a partner with the father. But if she begeris. But let's say she got older and she didn't get married. She didn't go to the chuppah, but she's over 12 and a half. The father is now out of the picture. The father can't do anything. So now the Gemara begins. Minalan, how do I know? The arus acharain meifin nedarim sheniru la'arus rishon. How do I know that the last husband can revoke the neder of the first husband? You see, the first arus, the first fiance, was there. She made a neder, then he divorced her. He didn't decide what he wants to do. So you're telling me that if that day she gets engaged to somebody else, that second person takes the place of the first husband. How do you know? Maybe would you say that no, it's the father took over control of that neder, because this neder was not made in front of the arus, the second fiance. It was only made on the first fiance. He's out of the picture, so then we should give all the power to the father. How do we know? We say that the second fiance takes the place of the first one. Amar Shmuel, so Shmuel says, and this is the whole topic of today. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, if a girl who's 12 years old, right, she has a father, she gets engaged even twice. Hoya tia means she got divorced, engaged to one person, and she has nedareha aleha, her nedarim us with her. Then the husband and the father both take charge and could revoke the neder. So we darshan from the dareha aleha, nedarim shahaya aleha kavar, that the husband has a right to revoke nedarim that were made prior to his engagement. So the Gemara says, but how do you know? Dilma, maybe that is true. Hanimili, that was only said shaloi nir l'arus rishon, that an arus, the husband, the fiance, can revoke nedarim that were made prior to his engagement, but were never seen by another arus. They were never seen by arus number one. Avo, but nedarim sheniru la'arus rishon, but a neder that was seen by a first arus, right? Maybe I will say, loy matzume for arus achron. Then the second arus can take the place. So what the Gemara is essentially asking, how do I know that you would give the second arus, the final arus, the second fiancé, all the power, but I would say you give him only powers to nedarim that were never seen by a previous fiancé. But if it was a neder that was seen by a previous fiancé, and now that first fiancé divorced her, so you give the power totally to the father. How do you know that if she got engaged again, now the father has another partner, the second arus? How do you know that's included in the power of the second arus? Answers the Gemara, Oleha, Kra Yaseruhu. There's an extra word in the pasuk. Oleha means any neder that's on her. You see, the doesn't matter. The pasuk did not have to say the word Oleha. The pasuk says, if this girl gets married to somebody and she makes a neder, the husband could revoke that neder. What does the Oleha mean? Oleha means any neder that's on her, not only nedarim that were made by herself when she had no fiance, but even a neder that was made in front of the first arus, and then he divorced her. The second arus, when she got engaged that day, the second arus now takes the place of the first arus, and they can revoke the neder or confirm the neder that day.
Baruch, what if the divorce happened after 24 hours? Because you said that a decision has to be.
So think about that. So then automatically, if 24 hours, it's not 24 hours, it's even less than that, because let's say she made the neder at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 o'clock noontime, you only have till up 5 o'clock to revoke the neder. So you only have till that end of that day. And if we don't get another, let's say the first arus heard it, right? Mm-hmm. Then at 1 o'clock he divorced her. Mm-hmm. And at 2 o'clock she married the second arus. So then you only have another 3 hours to decide whether he wants to keep the neder or not.
That's true.
Your question was, let's say she didn't marry a new Oris, right? Then it's up to the father. If there's no new Oris in the picture on that day, then it's up to the father to decide if he wants to keep the neder or revoke it. But
only if she's less than 12 and a half.
Only she's less than 12 and a half, correct.
But if she's older than that, she's finished.
So then he's finished, right? We're talking about a girl. All we're talking about is Nara Hamarasa. That's the topic. That a Nara means 12 to 12 and a half. That's Murasa who is engaged.
Right.
Okay. So what we said over here is the following case. And just to make it clear, a girl, let's say she's engaged, and at 12 o'clock in front of her father and husband and fiance, she says, I make a neder. I'm not eating fruits. So really, in order for that neder to be revoked, they both have to revoke. They both have to pay for the neder. But what happens if the husband says, I'm out of this marriage and gives her a divorce at 12 o'clock in the afternoon? So now it's up to the father to revoke. If the father did not revoke it and she went ahead and got engaged to somebody else at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like I said, this is all theoretical because really she should wait 3 months. But let's say she got engaged to somebody right after, in the next hour after she got divorced, she got engaged to Orus number 2. Now the father doesn't have the full power anymore. In order to revoke that neder, he has to take that partner, the second Orus, as his partner. The neder was made in front of the first Orus, but then we have a pasuk Oleha that teaches us that the second Orus, who's Hoyatia, who's the second guy, he's the second guy who gave her engagement ring. He has the right to revoke nedarim that were already that were seen by the first fiance. This was the novelty of Shmuel, who explained our Mishnah. Now the rest of the daf just says that Shmuel has actually a brisa that agrees with him, and the brisa, the way it agrees with him is because the Beis Hillel agree with Shmuel. Let's see what the brisa says. Tanya, we learned in the brisa. Tanya kavase de Shmuel. We learned in the brisa according to Shmuel. Nara Hamarasa, a girl who's 12 years old who is engaged, right? So then there are two partners to make for the neder. Avia, Ubala, the father and the husband, Mefirin Nidareha, revoke her nedarim. Ketzad, give me a case where it's novel. I mean, I understand that a father and a husband can revoke the neder. They're partners. But give me a case that you shake up a little bit and you have to start thinking about it. You give me, that's good, like a good intelligence.
No, girls 12 years old getting married now.
Yeah, so that's right. So Ketzad, what's the case? Let's say a case over here. Shama Avia, the father heard about the neder. Okay, he heard his daughter making a neder. She's engaged, right? Vehefula, and he revoked the neder. But he could only revoke part of the neder because he needs the husband to also make for the neder, to revoke the neder. But he speak Habal Ushmoya Achames. The Baal did not hear about the neder and he died. So the father was just made for the neder. So she got engaged that day. So that's a funny case. The case is that the brisa gives. Her father hears about a neder she made, let's say 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And both of them were made for the neder. The father did his job, he revoked the neder, and the fiancée died. But she got engaged that day to somebody else. At 1 o'clock already, she was engaged to husband number 2. Even if she did it 100 times, then the father and the second husband could be and need to make for the nederah, because the second husband takes the place of the first husband. The second husband takes the place of the first husband. But this is because this is not so much of a chiddush, because the first husband never heard about the neder, so it wasn't in his ball field, the neder, because he died before hearing the neder. But this is where the raya to Shmuel is. Shama Bala, let's say the husband heard about the neder, okay? And the husband, again, all these cases are the husband is dying. But Shama Bala v'hefela, the first fiancé heard about the neder and revoked the neder. Well, hispik ha'av l'shmoya ad shemes, the father did not hear about the neder until he died. So now the ad shemes habal, until the husband died. So the first fiance was made for the neder, and then he died, but the father did not yet hear about the neder. So now his revocation is worthless because he's not here anymore. So therefore, it's almost as if his first heifer, the first fiance's heifer, disappears. And so the father can redo the chelik of the Baal. In other words, even if she wouldn't get engaged to somebody else, to husband number two, fiance number two, the fiance number two has no power. Okay, so this seems to disagree with what we're saying, that we always try to think that the fiance number two takes the place of fiance number one, even if fiance number one heard about the neder. So the Gemara says, Omer Abnasan, Hein Hein Divrei Beis Shammai. That's what Beis Shammai held. Beis Shammai held fiance number two does not take the place of fiance number one, because fiance number one heard about the neder. Avo, but Beis Hillel says, the father cannot do it alone. He needs fiance number two, just like Shmuel said. Even though this was a neder that fiance number one heard about, so it was in fiance's number one ballpark. But like Shmuel said, that we have a pasuk that the fiance number two could take control of nedarim that were seen by fiance number one, and therefore Beis Hillel will hold that they cannot. The father cannot do it alone, but rather he has to have the Oris number two as his partner. So the Gemara just explains b'mai pligi. What is the reasons of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's machlokes? So we go to Amid Beis, and it's very short, and it's 3 lines we're going to learn. But I'll just give you the picture. It's very simple. The simple reason is, take a look at this picture. When I have 2 red lines, two red lights over here, right? So when I look at this picture, I could say that this is the father. One is the father. He's the father. And this is the husband. So both of them could be made for neders, right? Both of them, the father and the mother, they're 50-50. So Beis Shammai holds that if the husband, this is their 50-50. So when the husband, let's say, heard about the neder and died, but he was made for the neder, so when he died, half the neder is gone. That's called migas gayis. Half the neder is gone. Therefore, even if the husband dies and she marries husband number two doesn't matter anymore because half the neder is gone. The husband part of the neder is gone. So that's why Beis Shammai holds the father can take control and be made for his part and doesn't need Oris number two. This is the opinion of Beis Shammai, how it works when you have 2 partners being made for the neder. Let's see that inside. Beis Shammai says, Nedarim nami sheniru la'arus, nedarim also that were seen by husband number one, and the husband number one did something about it. The fiance number one did something about it. Nisreitner shus la'av. So then all the power now is left with the father because 50% of that neder still is powerful. And therefore, we don't need Oris number two to do anything. So what's left is only what the father can do. So if the father now hears about the neder, he can revoke the neder because he holds megas gayas. When there are 2 partners, they're cut in half. The husband has his share of hafara, and the father has his share. And once husband number one did his job, so now what's left of the neder is up to the father to do. Beis Hillel holds something different, and this is what we'll end. Beis Hillel holds that when you have a neder, we have a big yellow light over here. It's when one of them, the husband, let's say the husband did hafara over here, it's not like half the neder is gone. It's a weakened form of a neder. So really, there's a full neder over here, but albeit in its weakened form. So it's like a virus that's, weakened, but it's still a virus. So when husband number one died, so the father still doesn't have the power to extinguish this because it's still a big neder. So he needs the assistance of Oris number two because now together they are forced to extinguish the neder. They are forced to extinguish the neder. So that's why Beis Hillel holds that when the husband number one dies, so Oris number two has to team up with the father to extinguish this neder. Because Beis Hillel, sorry, go back into the Gemara, the father and the last husband are mefer nedarim, v'loy megas gayas. But it's not that they're cutting; they each have a part to do, and that's it. They both are. It's called miklash kolish, which we had that expression. They each one has the potential to weaken the neder, but they both have to do it at the same time, and they both have to be involved in it. So when the husband the husband number one did it. So now it's still it's still around. This is too much for a father to take care of on his own. So that's why Beis Hillel holds of father and the last husband revoked the neder. So bottom line over here is that is the proof. Beis Hillel is like Beis Shmuel, and Shmuel explained our Mishnah that if a woman makes a neder in front of her father and in front of her fiance, and the fiance dies, then if she marries that day a fiance number two, the father has to team up with fiance number two to be made for the neder, because fiance number two inherits and gets power to revoke nedarim that she made in front of her first fiance. That's the end of the Gemara that we'll learn today.
All right, I have a quick question. What if fiance number one dies, didn't listen to it, didn't hear it, father did, okay, and she doesn't get married again, and she's within 24 hours of the father hearing.
The father,
himself?
Yeah, the father gets all the power. Power gets taken away from the father only if she brings in a fiance.
And if the fiancé heard about it, automatically, and he dies, the father can't do it alone. He needs another heiress.
No, the
father takes it over.
No, only if she gets married, only if she gets engaged, then the power gets taken away from the father.
Exactly.
She didn't get married, even if the first husband heard about it. If she didn't get married again, then the father can do it by himself. What
I'm saying is, if she gets engaged immediately within 24 hours, okay, the father already heard about it. It's within 24 hours.
I know it's 24 hours that day. Yes.
And she gets engaged. Does she have to get married, or could she just be engaged?
No, only engaged. Because only engaged. That's what we're talking about. Nisarsa.
Right. Only engaged.
Right. Nadar v'yarusa, and the husband heard about it, and that's what it says. Niskarsha by b'yayim, nisarsa by b'yayim. She got engaged again that day.
Okay. So it's and that's only if she already brought in the first husband, but if she didn't bring in other words, if the first husband heard about it, what if he didn't hear about it at all? Does that matter?
If he didn't hear about it at all, so then that's a good point. If he didn't hear about it at all, then it's the father that could. The
father takes it over because he will know.
Back to square one.
No, if the first husband didn't hear about it at all, okay, and she got engaged to husband number two, then the husband number two has the power.
Well, of course, but what if she didn't get engaged and he never heard about it? The father has all the power, right?
I guess the father would have all the power, right?
Power, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll chart it out for you tomorrow, but the basic concepts we have over here.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.